The person who's fronting the band needs to like the way you play the bass. The drummer needs to like the way that you play the bass. The other bass players on Facebook don't need to like the way you play the bass.
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, a lot of them over 50, learning bass and having the time of their life playing music that they love. Come join them so you can experience that incredible transformation for yourself. Remember, you're never too old to groove, so let's play bass. My guest this week is an old friend. Andy Irvine is a well-known bassist, bandleader, composer, and educator, critically acclaimed for his feel-good grooves, his top-notch soloing, and songwriting skills. Andy has traveled the world many times, both as a sideman and as a leader of his own bands. He's also done countless international clinics and product demonstrations. His album releases include Soul Clap, Diggin' That Funky Blues, and The Way I Like It, among others. He's also the author of a book, Passion and Action, A Musician's Journey. This is his fourth time on For Bass Players Only, believe it or not. Welcome, Andy. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, John. Thank you. It's an honor to be back.
It's an honor to have you. Last interview we did was actually way back at the 2017 NAMM show. And you were excited about the then new or the then forthcoming release, Ghost in the Grain.
Yeah.
So that was a while back. Bring us up to date. What are some highlights of what's been happening over the last 7 or so years?
You know, I really need to, Ghost in the Grain, I just released it. I released it digitally. You know, I didn't make CDs for the first time ever of all 4 of my albums. And I kind of wish I had. So I might go back and take that. It's kind of it's like 20 songs or something. I think I might go back and pick the best 10 and actually re-release that. You just reminded me. It's one of those many projects that I need to get back to work on. But I've been doing I started my own kind of promotional support, brand development, prototype evaluation, consulting, design consulting kind of thing called Andy's World of Bass. And you know, around that time, it was around 2017 when I kind of got the brainchild going, and then I put together a pretty amazing assemblage of about 40 or so brands that are woven into the fabric of Andy's World of Bass. And I've been doing my part to just nurture them and help them and support them with making videos and demo videos and contributing with some prototype testing for various brands behind the scenes, and also doing marketing and promotional videos for their lines of instruments and amplification.
That sounds like one fun job you created for yourself.
Well, it's great. You know, for me, it's really perfect because I'm crazy about bass guitars and I'm crazy about everything that has to do with playing. You know, I've been playing for 42, 43 years now. And, you know, I've always been just really into a variety of different instruments. I joke around and say I never met a bass I didn't like. You know, I just love them all, and I love the energy and the passion that the individual people in the bass gear and bass instrument making, the world of those brands and those companies. I love the passion that they put into it, and I like to, you know, just kind of contribute and support them and nurture them and help them grow. And in the process, we kind of everybody helps each other. And so it's a very tight. I host all of the brands at the highest friendship level, and it's not real. It's more of a friendship circle than it is a business model. But there is a little bit of you know, money that exchanges hands, just enough to make it feasible for everybody. And that's all, and that's why it works. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit, everybody helps me a little bit. I help everyone a little bit. I'm able to remain neutral, and I don't, I reserve I don't have to be exclusive, but I just remain respectfully neutral to all. So I'm able to do a lot of different things. And in that way, in that model, in that methodology, it works really, really well for everyone, including myself.
That sounds like a great thing all the way around. You were talking about something else during our last interview. You were working with kids, and you called it a modern entrepreneurial musicianship lecture series, which is quite a mouthful. I had to practice saying that. But are you able to still do anything with the kids? It was about trying to make it as a professional musician and working on things like getting endorsements and branding and promotion and things like that. Is that still going on at any level?
Yeah, it's going on a daily level. There's a number of young musicians whom I mentor that are you could say, I guess you could say they're students, or friends. And I'm always helping, I have what I think is a pretty large worldwide following of bass players of all different ages and all different places in the journey with where they're going and what they're doing. And I've always been an available resource to people who want to reach out and ask me questions, and I'm always willing to give people suggestions and everything like that. In terms of like speaking in public, I haven't really done a whole lot of that in the last several years. I kind of took a step away from traveling and kind of being away from home. I really did some personal reinvention stuff that I really wanted to just be home, and I really wanted to get in shape, get physically in shape, and I just devoted a lot of my time over the last 5 or 6 years to getting in shape and spending a lot of time doing healthy things that were healthy for me. And then now I'm able to start to kind of work my way back in and do more things and do a little bit of traveling and do a little bit more of those kinds of things, because I feel like I'm in a good place now. You see, it's like in life, we have, bumps in the road, and we have seasons of our life. And there comes a time when we really have to turn inward and focus on our own health. And that's what I did over the last several years. I lost 80 pounds and changed my eating and, quit the smoking, the cigarettes and the drinking and all that stuff that was holding me back and that was really affecting my attitude, in a very negative way. And I was able to turn that all around. So now I feel like I'm in a better position to contribute to more things that requires me to travel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's funny that in all three of the last interviews, the words road dog came up from you describing yourself as a road dog. But just to what you just said, I have seen several of your Facebook posts over the years, and they're very inspiring, and I really admire what you've done, and you look great.
Well, thank you, John. And, I appreciate that. I truly and genuinely appreciate that. I believe that I have more probably to offer now than I've ever had in my life, because I have a different kind of value. I have a different kind of value for every day, a different kind of value for health, a different kind of ability to prioritize doing things in a way that enables me to walk away from it with no regrets. You know what I mean? Like, it just in terms of like, if we're talking about being a musician, I used to kind of like fly up the seat of my pants, and I used to kind of wing it, and I used to show up for things unprepared. And, I used to just think that I could, kind of flub my way or fake my way through things and all of that. And, most people don't do it like that, but I did. And for a while, you might get by with that. but I don't do it like that anymore because I always had regrets. When things didn't go well, I walked away. I was hanging my head low because I knew I didn't do the work. Now I do the work, and the work that I do is all inclusive. Meaning, if I have a gig in 3 weeks and I know I need to perform, I know I need to, give a great effort. My preparation is going for my walk. My preparation is exercising. My preparation is being physically ready. My preparation is learning and preparing the music. My preparation is preparing my attitude so that I can bring the best that I have to offer to the table, and then just go there and just play my ass off the best I can, and I can walk away with my head held high. And that is the ultimate thing in this business, because there's so many things that can contribute to disappointment that at least I know that I gave my best. And that's probably the best thing that I could, encourage anyone to do, is bring your best. And like I said, most people probably already been doing this their whole life, but I didn't. I went down some roads on that road dog trip. I went down some roads and it just kind of spun out of control, and I had to bring it all back in and reinvent, and it really helped me a lot.
Was this all internal, or did somebody suggest that you get on a different path, or how did that all come to be?
I mean, it was a series of events and things. There was like, in 2015, my father died, and my father-in-law died, who was like a father to me. So that year was really tough. I was working with Warwick at the time, and we were having the owner of the company, Speeter, and I, who are very, very good friends, were butting heads a lot. And my attitude was shifting in ways, and then my behavior was, getting all screwed up. So ultimately I got fired. Okay. So that's pretty good reason to make some changes, getting fired, and then, it was just like, I was making a bunch of bad decisions, and it was starting to like create all these, wreckage in my life. You know what I mean? But, most of all, it was a personal thing, more than the bass and more than the business and more than the job and more than this and more than anything than that. I wasn't liking who I was seeing in the mirror for a long time, John. And that's one of the saddest things that a guy can ever go through, is to look at the guy in the mirror and not like who they see. And that was probably the single most motivating factor. You know what I mean?
There's just something. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say there's just something about music, because we all go through hard times, some of us worse than others, but there's something about music. I remember in high school, I was really into guitar before I was into bass. And you get moods and emotions and just the regular high school stuff. And I remember that no matter how I felt when I came home, I would always take it out on the guitar if I felt good or if I didn't feel good. So I think we're fortunate that we have music, we have the bass, and sometimes we can just dive into that, and it doesn't make all the problems go away, but it's a healthy way to make us feel better. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree, John. And I would add to that. It's a very personal, private thing, our relationship with our instrument, or our relationship with our art, let's just say. Someone who likes to paint, or someone who likes to write, someone who likes to journal, someone who likes to sketch, someone who likes to dance. It's a personal relationship we have with that art, right? And no one else can tell us what to do. No one else can tell us if it's good or not. The value of the art is only reliant on the creator of the art. You see what I'm saying? If we think it's good, it's good. You know what I mean? And that's what's so great about our instrument. We can when I was a teenager, when I was going through the things that all teenagers go through, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, my bass, it was my vessel. It was my safe zone, where I could just turn off all of the extraneous things, all the negative things and trials and tribulations, struggles that any young teenager, adolescent goes through. And I could just get with my bass and I could just sit there and practice, and I could basically turn it all off. I could turn off the outside world. And like you said, that carries through all the way to into our whole life, our whatever it is, whatever our passion is, whatever our, or maybe it's a hobby. I like to, maybe people like, I like training and riding my mules and stuff like that just as much as I love music. You know what I mean? It's a passion that gives me that great place where I don't even think about anything else when I'm with them. You know what I mean? And we all have something like that. So yeah. Definitely.
I do know what you mean. Speaking of music, you mentioned the album that you were thinking of maybe condensing. It's funny. My first thought when you said you hadn't released it with a material like an album or a CD or something, just digitally, I was thinking you should add a couple of bonus cuts and then make that a special edition. But maybe your idea is better without having 22 songs. But I bring that up just to ask. Other than that, is there? Look, I'm sorry. You look like you want to say something. Go ahead.
I'm going to do that because I already have, since that time, I've recorded several singles, a couple that I sang on, because I had never had the courage to record music and me sing lead vocals on it. And please don't let me paint a picture of me being a great singer. That's not the point. The point is that I did it. I went in the studio, I worked with the producer, and together we got the best out of me that we could with me singing lead vocals on 2 or 3 songs. And I can listen to it without cringing horribly enough that I'll put it out there. You know what I mean? And the most important thing is that I just did it. You know what I mean? I just went in and I did it. So there are about 5 or 6 songs that I've recorded since that time. A friend of mine who's the lead singer of the Alan Parsons Project opened up a recording studio here in my tiny little town in Colorado. And he bought a Neve desk and all this great gear and started recording. And he was using me on a ton of recordings that he was doing. And then I was working with him and I was doing a bunch of my own recordings. So that stuff will be on this kind of re-release version of Ghost in the Grain, condensed version. Some of it will be.
Awesome. Well, what I was leading up to is, do you have anything else that's in the works? And this sounds like a pretty big project unto itself, but is there anything else that, maybe after you get through this one, or is there something else that's percolating as far as a new release of new material, notwithstanding just the, additional stuff to the old material, but a new album, a new concept, anything at all like that?
I wish I could say there is, but there is not. I haven't been.
You're always doing something cool.
Well, what I do, John, is I don't practice. I practice writing. So, if I pick up my bass, which I do every morning, and I play for usually 20 minutes to 45 minutes every morning, I pick up the bass and I start making something up. And a lot of times what I make up that morning becomes the video that I publish that day, right? I just put it out there. I just get to where I can play it from the beginning to the end, and I make it have an intro, an A section, a B section, a bridge, and an ending. And I get it to where I can play it from beginning to end, and then I make a video of it and publish it. And these are my little sketches, and I have literally hundreds of them. And the reason I make the video and publish it is, number one, just to put something out there that's kind of entertaining, I suppose, and has some variety, but also it's so I can go back. And if I ever get the wild hair and I'm like, I'm ready and I feel like putting together a record, I go back and look at all those sketches again, because I forget them the next day. But I'll go back and look at those sketches like, oh yeah, that one was good. Let's bring that back, relearn it, and maybe I can refine that into something tangible. So that's how I do it. I make these sketches. It's the same as if a writer just journals every day. For me, that's kind of how I practice. I play the same way I've always played. I'm not really changing much as a player. I'm refining what I do always and getting better at what I do. So I pretty much play how I play. So when it comes to practicing, I mostly practice by composing, if that makes sense. That's what I do.
It makes sense. And it's so, I don't know if cathartic is the right word, but it just sounds so healthy. Just a healthy release and expression. And the fact that you do that every day or at least regularly, I just think that's great.
You know, this is a little bit cosmic or whatever, but I believe that the closest we are to the dream state that we get creative, the better chance we have of capturing what was in the dream. Meaning, if I was dreaming about something, if I was hearing something, or if I was dreaming about something 45 minutes ago and I just got up and I just had one cup of coffee, I can find that. I can find that what was in that. I can find what that inspiration that was in that dream, and I can make it tangible. The farther I get away in my day from that dream state, life starts to happen. I got to go to work. I got to do this. I got this responsibility, that responsibility. The more minutes and hours that I get away from that dream state, the more it drifts away, never to be harnessed, never to be grabbed. So that's why I like to create first thing in the morning. Some people do it late at night. They sit up until 4 a.m. But I'm the complete opposite. I'm in bed at 9:20, I try to be in bed at between 9:20 and 9:30, quarter to 10, and I'm up at 5:30 every morning, and that's when I create, right after I wake up. Works for me.
That's great. I want to ask you about your gear, and we could probably spend an hour or two talking about all your gear, but can you give me the condensed version? I've interviewed, I think you're like around number 850 or something like that. And the people that say, oh, I have 200 basses. And then I say to them, yeah, well, that's cool. But I bet every time you go to play the bass, you tend to gravitate to the same 1 or 2 or 3. And they all pause and they go, yeah, that's about right. So tell me about your bass gear and, amps and strings and effects and something in a condensed version, if you would.
Okay, my first bass guitar when I was a little kid was a precision bass, okay? And so that's what I've always identified with the most, and that's what I've always gravitated towards in one way, shape, or form is
very bass?
No, not this one. This one took me my whole life to find. This is a 1970, 77 Fender Precision that I got from a guy down the street, an older gentleman down the street, who called me one day. He said, you're the local bass player guy. He said, I got this bass that I bought 30 years ago, and I never used it. I used it in church 3 times. Can you come over and tell me what it's worth? And it was this bass, and it's got the A neck, the jazz thin neck on it, and it's all, I was like, well, wow. You've got a really great bass there, man. And it's so light. It's under 8 pounds. And it's so uncommon for a late 70s to be, first of all, mint, case clean. Second of all, have the A neck. And third of all, be so light and have this amazing figuring. So I made him an offer, and I told him, the offer that I'm going to give you right now is probably 1/3 of what it's worth. I'm just telling you, but it's what I can offer you. You know what I mean? And I can offer it to you right now. And I offered him $1,200 for it, and he took it. So that's like the unicorn P bass that I searched for my whole life. And all these years, it was 5 miles away in a closet.
Wow.
So I've always gravitated toward the P bass and the P bass pickup. So I'm playing all these Sadowskis now, and they all have the P pickup. Most of them have the P pickup in the front. Okay. So it looks like a jazz bass, but it's got a P bass pickup in it. So that's what helps me to feel like I'm, home. So here's another one. Sadowski with the P bass pickup in the front. Here's another one. Sadowski with the P bass pickup in the front. So you see, I like a P bass sound. I like that grunt and that kind of thrust and grunt of a P bass, and it's a little brash and a little snarly and gruff sounding. That really works well for my technique. So that's kind of I mean, I'm being very general because I have 50 basses and there's a lot of different ones here. But I tend to gravitate towards having a P pickup in there. That's one similarity with a lot of them. In terms of strings,
we were talking before about MG basses, the Italian company. That's one of the companies you use, right? One of the basses you play?
MG bass is the Brazilian builder Mauricio Costa.
Right.
And he built me this bass. He's built me 3, and this is the most recent one. This one has 2 Bartolini humbuckers in it. Sounds absolutely incredible. And it has the quilted redwood top.
Beautiful.
So
different.
Mauricio Costa, Brazilian, and he's in South Carolina. And him and his son are a family company, and they build these instruments by hand, one at a time. And he makes shapes. I have 3 of them here from over the years. I've been with him for 7 years.
Nice. You were starting to tell me about strings.
Yeah, the strings that I use are made by Golly Strings. They're an Italian company that's been family owned and operated since 1890. And they're on par with like Tomastic or Labella. They're like the Italian, they're like the European high-end, premier high-end, long-standing company. And I use the Golly synthesis and the nickel half wound and the jazz flats. Those are my favorites. And I've been with them also for 6 years. And every instrument that I have has a Golly strings on it.
I was about to ask you, wow, every bass, huh?
Yep.
I guess you like those strings. Are they different gauges or different types and different you have flats and
I've never been so string happy in my life. The gauges that I like, I like the same. I don't like to change things around. I like 45 to 105 and 45 to 130. And the reason why the flat wounds work so well for me is that they're gauged exactly like my nickel round wounds are, 45 to 130. So when I switch from a bass with flats on it or to a bass with rounds on it, it feels the same. The tension is the same. It's not overly stiff and overly hard to play, and it doesn't hurt my hands, and I can bend notes, and I can be expressive, and I can be greasy, and I can slap and bend and do all the stuff on flats. And that's what made me truly and genuinely fall in love with flat wound strings. And half of my basses have flats on them now. And I also love I've always played with the pick since 1982. I play with the pick half the time. People think that's like a new thing for me or something, but I started playing with a pick. I've always played with a pick.
Did you ever play guitar before you played bass?
Not before, but around the time I got married about 18 years ago, I went through a guitar learning season of my life, and for a couple of years I didn't play hardly any bass. And I joined a band playing guitar with my wife. My wife's a singer. I joined her band being the guitar player, and I practiced guitar for an hour a day or more, and took lessons and watched a whole bunch of videos and everything. And I got to where I could play guitar decent enough to do my own guitar on my albums. That was the reason why, is because I was having a hard time explaining to other guitar players what I wanted on my albums, and it just seemed like it would be easier to do it myself. To get to where I could do it get good enough to where I could do it myself. Of course, I bring in like the someone legitimate for soloing and stuff like that, but like the rhythm parts and everything. Sometimes it's really hard to explain the feel of a rhythm part, and it needs to be specific. I'm kind of picky about that.
Well, it's good. I hope the drummers get you and the keyboard players get you because you have to do everything all by yourself because nobody else gets you. So
I,
I've
I,
heard
I,
your
I
stuff.
I can't play drums. I mean, I can play a beat. I can hold a beat. But as soon as I play a fill, I
Yeah,
either
it's
slow down or speed up or don't come back on the one. So I got no business sitting behind the drums on a gig.
Hey, one of the things that I mentioned when I was introducing you, I used the word educator. And for bass players only, as you know, is a bass instruction site. And as I also mentioned, a lot of the people are over 50, mostly men. You've got a fair bit of women now too, but mostly in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've got a few students actually in their 80s. So these are not career bound people. They're not looking to play sold out arenas throughout the world to their adoring fans. They want to get together with their buddies and play some classic rock riffs or some blues shuffles or, maybe the
Heck
walking
yeah.
bass, whatever.
Yeah, I got
So, in that context, I want to take this opportunity to ask you what advice you can impart to those people. A lot of times when you get to be that age, things like arthritis and tendonitis and other things creep in too. So I'm just telling you that to create a context. But I wanted to take this opportunity to ask what advice you have for somebody like that who wants to learn bass. What do you think they should be
okay.
thinking about?
Well, first of all, if I was to summarize my career, that's basically the majority of what I've always done. Been in bands, played in bars, few festivals now and again. I've done some touring and everything like that. But when we were in Europe, it was still in clubs. You know what I mean? And so I've never experienced the playing at the Superdome on a regular level or anything like that. You know what I mean? I'm a working road dog, working musician. So the experience that I have is doing those things: classic rock, oldies, the country bag, the R&B bag, the hard rock and classic metal and stuff like that, soul music, Motown. So I kind of worked my way through all of those bags over the years, and I was in bands that played that type of music. I am, from an educational standpoint, I don't really believe that I'm qualified or quantified, like, to teach the traditional theoretic or traditional music theory approach to musicianship. I know some of it. I know how to read down a chord chart. I know how to read chord symbols. I know how to spell chords in thirds. I know how to, do some of the things that are reliant on music theory knowledge. But for the most part, I've learned on the job, on the gig from the other musicians, and the drummers told me where to put it and what to put on it and how a shuffle is supposed to feel and, how to play a Texas shuffle and how to play a Chicago shuffle and how to play Delta blues, all the different various finite characteristics of style that go along with all these different genres, and then the geographic subgenres of them all. A lot of it has to do with an attitude of playing a supportive role. And for bass players, this is going to be a tough thing, because some people naturally just fall into that role, and they're like, I'm happy to play the groove and I like it here. And I don't need to do any fancy stuff. I don't need to do any twiddly bits, as Sir Paul says. I'm fine to just hold it down. And those kind of bass players who are willing and capable and naturally able to play something that's repetitive and do it with a happy heart. And that's the important thing, is to do it with a happy heart. Those kind of bass players are going to have the most opportunities with the instrument. Period. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't other styles and genres where there's lots of different places to express yourself in different ways with the instrument and to put fills and do all this kind of stuff. It's just a matter of knowing where and knowing when and what is the appropriate time. Because in the bass playing thing, other bass players don't really matter. You know what I mean? Who matters is the person who's singing the song, and they need to like the way you play the bass. The person who's fronting the band needs to like the way you play the bass. The drummer needs to like the way that you play the bass. The other bass players on Facebook don't need to like the way you play the bass. It's the people that you're on the gig with, the person who's singing the song and the person who's playing the drums, and of course, guitar player and all the other musicians, but primarily the drummer and the singer. Because if you're playing that supportive role and you can get into that space and you can get into that happy heart of laying it down and playing repetitive things, you're gonna fit. It's gonna be a good fit for that band, whatever kind of band it is. If you're playing, Chuck Berry or if you're playing, Steely Dan, it doesn't matter as long as you're just playing bass. That kind of is going to be the thing. So I guess that's kind of my take on it, is make everybody happy. And then the other thing is sometimes it's not even about how well you play. It's about how well you get along with people.
That's definitely a big part.
How you don't let stuff bug you when someone makes a suggestion. You know what I mean? As musicians, we can get, depending on where our head is at, we can get offended or pissed off or something if someone makes a suggestion of how they would like the bass to be going. And it's like, that's never going to work.
Yeah. I see that in sports a lot, what you're talking about.
You gotta be able to be diplomatic. You have to have some couth and some candor and the ability to zip the lip and just, even if you disagree and even if you think it's the most stupid idea you ever heard of, you have to learn how to say perhaps. You have to learn how to utilize words like perhaps, vague things like perhaps or maybe or that might work or that's definitely one way to look at it. You know what I mean? If you put a hard no on it.
I love it. The only thing I would add to the first part of what you said about the things that I call sensitivity and musical maturity, knowing when to play, the fills and when not to play. But you talked about playing repetitive and playing consistent. And that's what I think takes a lot of discipline to play the same thing over and over again. The happy heart, like you say, is very important. But to play something repetitively and consistently, evenly, and with your attack and your release and locking in and all that stuff, that is quite a skill that is, I think, more difficult to develop than most people think. How long can you keep that groove? If you're the bass player and there's 20 people soloing one after another, you gotta be consistent and you gotta play it. So that's where partially where my mind went when you said that. I love everything you said. I couldn't agree.
You could play along the classic recordings, like up from Jimi Hendrix, Up From the Skies, ba ba da 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 ba da, C and B flat for like 11 minutes. And once you get into it, you can get into like a trance like state and really start listening to the snare drum and really start listening to the space in between, and you start getting this kind of like ability to play the space and really listen to the times when you're not playing. You know what I mean? Listening to the empty holes and making them part of the part, and really kind of like trying to give the empty holes have an equal value of what you're actually playing and what you're not playing, and then bringing them together and making them a woven fabric of making sound and not making sound, but them not being two separate entities, them being the same thing. And, you start to think about note duration. Even if it's a 16th note, it has a beginning and a middle and an end. So does a quarter note, so does a half note, so does a whole note. They all should look like a football. They all should be small in the beginning, then get bigger in the middle, and then, so those are the kind of things that I think about. I mean, I don't sit there and think about it all the time. A lot of what I do is it becomes, I don't even know what the word is, autopilot.
Second nature.
Yeah, second nature. And all that evenness and all that kind of stuff just kind of starts to come together. And, one of the things that I was lucky because I had the ability, even from when I first started, from a little kid, I got my bass on my 12th birthday. The next day we were jamming in my local neighborhood band. I was appointed to be the bass player, and we were doing songs, the next day. And I was able to go boom, 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 and do it evenly. I've had students that have come along that have this incredible, truly incredible intellectual understanding of theoretic things and the ability to analyze harmony and chords and understand how the circle of fifth works and how to spell
I think
seventh
I know
chord.
where you're going with this. Go ahead. But
then when their right hand is like so wishy-washy, and the time, and there's no deliberacy and there's no competence, and it's just kind of like this kind of like, like a limp, dead fish of a right hand. And I'm just like, oh my God, if they could get that right hand to equal the amount of intellectual creative ideas and facilitating all this, left hand stuff, because their left hand is almost ahead of their right hand, meaning they can see and they want to be able to do all these, like in the jazz vocabulary or something like that, like where you're playing every other note of the scale, where it's all arpeggiate. A lot of times it's just the melody is in a one continuous arpeggiation. It's kind of like you hear the first note, boom, and then you hear and you hear the last note. You don't hear, there's no articulation in everything in between. So it becomes like this bookend playing. And it's like a bazillion notes, a million intellectual left-hand things going on. But all I'm ever hearing is the first note of the phrase and the last note, because the right hand isn't up to snuff.
Wow. I love it. You mentioned a few things that you have coming up. You talked about reworking and maybe adding some stuff to the other, to the earlier release. Anything else as far as the future goes that you haven't already mentioned? Or maybe it's something that I've always wanted to do, or someday I'm gonna, anything like that?
I can tell you the thing that I'm most excited about right now in my bass world is, number one, the metal band that I'm in, which is called Speak of the Devil. We're just building and growing and doing shows, and we do classic heavy metal songs, from paying faithful tribute to bands like Black Sabbath, Metallica, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Ozzy, etc. And everything is from the first 4 albums. And so the music is from like 1978 through 85. So that's the genre, and I'm having so much fun in this band. So I'm really excited about that. And I also play in another local band with my best friend Robbie Gonzalez and one of my other best friends, Scotty Hicks, who's a drummer, called Puddle Stomp, and we gig. And the third band that I play with regularly, I've been playing with for 18 years or so. You probably even seen us play, is the Johnny O band. You might have seen me play with Johnny O over in Germany a couple times or whatever.
I jammed with Johnny. He was playing something. He'd play a lick, and then I'd answer, and then he'd play, and I'd answer. He was teaching me, I think.
Cool.
My son was. You remember Adam?
Yeah, of course.
You remember my son? He's 24, by the way.
I know. Well, I saw him at the dinner. I saw him at that dinner at NAMM.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I was like, wow, you're a grown man. But anyways, Johnny O, I still play with the Johnny O band. So those 3 bands are my 3 gigging things, right? And all 3 of them are trios. So I'm in hog heaven.
Power trio.
Yeah, I'm in 3 bands, and they're all power trios. And that for me is the ultimate playing scenario, ensemble scenario, because I know how, when, and where, and why to play fills and things like that, because I think I have a tasteful approach to it. I'm able to do that a lot. The more instruments that you add, the more you have to become more and more and more and more supportive. And other people are seizing the opportunity to play those fills and those other things that are going on. So in a power trio, the bass has got a lot of freedom. So that's my generalized musical thing that I'm super excited about. On a business level, in bass, the thing that I'm most excited about is working with Warwick and Sadowski, because my relationship, I told you along at the beginning of the interview that I got fired from Warwick when I lost my mind there in 2015. But we were always friends, even though I had to take a step away, And over the years, we nurtured and rekindled our friendship in a way that now we're working together again. And in life, you don't get a lot of second chances, man. You don't get a lot of, forgiveness doesn't always come easy, man, especially in business. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot for that to transpire. You know what I mean? A lot of times when people break up, they break up and they never get back together again in business. But we found a way, and it feels really, really good to be working with those guys again. And now they're, of course, partnered with Sadowski. And I found
you came by there when. No, I was there in Germany, Marknerkirchen, Germany. HP invited me. Actually, he wasn't there. His son was there, and there were just about 4 or 5 of us from different publications, and I got the scoop. I sent out the press release. I said, Roger, does this look good? Nick, does this look good? They both said yes, and I went right in that conference room, boom, out to the world.
That's the juiciest scoop anyone could get in what we do in the bass. That's super juicy. Hans-Peter Wilfer and Roger Sadowski joining forces. I mean, I saw it coming for years before that. I didn't know it was going to happen, but I saw the writing was on the wall and where that was going, because at the time, I was with Warwick and, the whole Sadowski thing, the way that came to be. Well, fast forward all these years, it's been like 8 years, you know what I mean? Or 9 years since I was working with Warwick in any kind of like specific capacity. And now with the Sadowski coming together with Sadowski, that's created this cool opportunity where I can contribute there, you know what I mean? And I can be of use, and I can help and contribute to nurturing the continued evolution and legacy of both those iconic brands, you know what I mean? And like for me, for what I do, a guy that makes bass videos, this kind of a thing, to be working with 2 of the giants, the absolute moguls of the industry, and be working with them. I mean, to me, it's like the best. It's the best gig I could ever get for me. So that's really exciting. And I'm going back over to Germany again here in a couple months. I've been over there recently, and we have some plans to do some other things throughout the year and into the coming year. So that's probably the most exciting business thing that I've got going on in terms of the business of bass.
Keep us posted on that. And I think that's a great note to end on. It's always exciting hearing you talk and learning what you're up to and what you've done, what you're doing, and what you've got coming up. So keep it up, Andy.
I've never felt better in my life. I'm gonna be 56 in April, and when I was 36, I felt like I was, I felt like I was going down, and now I'm pretty good. I'm like wearing the same size jeans I was in high school. You know what I'm saying? I feel great. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, keep it up, and let's do another follow-up, because there's always cool stuff to talk about. So thanks so much, Andy. Much luck and continued success to you always.
My pleasure, John. Again, man, it's truly an honor, really.
Thank you. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, if you haven't been inspired by this interview, I don't know what to say, but you should know there are thousands of people right now inside the For Bass Players Only community. A lot of them over 50, learning bass, having the time of their life, playing the music that they love. Come join them so you can experience that incredible transformation for yourself. Remember, you're never too old to groove, so let's play bass. Thanks again to my special guest, my good friend, Andy Irvine. I will see you all next week right here, same time, same place. In the meantime, let's play bass.